Internal Family Systems, or IFS, is an evidence-based model of psychotherapy. The premise behind this model is that your mind is made up of different parts. For example, Sam's manager asked him to deliver a presentation at work. A part of him felt excited and another part felt scared. Or we can look at Sue. She desperately wants to lose weight, but there's a part of her that always sabotages her weight loss attempts. So at the centre of the IFS model is the idea that we all have different parts, and sometimes these parts are on the same team and sometimes they're in conflict. So IFS is based on the idea of multiplicity, the premise that you are made up of many different parts. Now, I always think it's helpful to look at an example, so let's look at Rachel. Rachel is an administrator in a large company and she's bullied by a colleague, which is causing her a lot of upset. To manage her distress, she works long hours and leaves very little time to focus on herself, her family or her friends. She's also obsessional about checking her work and she's terrified of her colleague's reaction if she makes a mistake. Recently, her anguish has become so intense that she started to binge eat and then dissociate. Let's look at what internal parts are at play here. The parts that push Rachel to work long hours and to keep checking her work are known as managers. Managers are protective parts that control the outside world to keep you safe. They are vigilant in trying to prevent you from being triggered and flooded with emotion. Manager parts are typically critical, controlling, evaluating, plan in advance and apply clear strategies so bad things don't happen. The other parts that are at play here are called firefighters. Firefighters are also protective parts, but they're very different from managers. Managers are very strategic and controlling, but firefighters react automatically and powerfully without concern for consequences. So when Rachel's distress peaks, her firefighters come to the fore and try to block her emotional distress by binge eating and dissociating. Firefighters come out when there's an emergency and they try to put out the flames of emotion in whatever way they can. So for some people this is eating, for somebody else it may be alcohol, drugs, promiscuity or even suicide. Firefighters will resort to desperate measures with little regard to the damage to your health and your relationships. The primary aim of firefighters is to block feelings in whatever way they possibly can. So managers and firefighters are both protectors and have the same goal. They want to exile vulnerable parts and extinguish emotional pain. Rachel's managers and firefighters are trying to stop her painful parts from breaking free. These parts are called exiles. Now, exiles are the most sensitive part of your inner system. They're usually younger parts that someone else has hurt, shamed, betrayed or rejected. Exiles are your injured parts that are frozen in time. They hold traumatic memories, body sensations and emotions. Rachel's exiles overwhelm her emotionally with flashbacks, nightmares and sudden feelings of fear and shame. That's because her exiles hold memories of being abused as a child. Rachel's managers and firefighters have imprisoned her exiles to stop them from overwhelming her internal system. The more injured, terrified, shamed or rageful an exile, the more the protectors fear its release and the more extreme they become in their efforts to suppress and restrain the exile. The managers and firefighters can use criticism, denial, revulsion, distraction and control to keep the exiles imprisoned and out of your mind. But the more an exile is suppressed, the more it tries to break free. In this way, managers, firefighters and exiles become caught in a vicious cycle of conflict. So what we want to do here is develop what's called self-leadership. Now, a concept at the core of IFS is the self. This is present from birth and it's not actually considered a part as it's something we're all born with, which makes a self a great inner leader. The self is characterised by the 8 C's: compassion, curiosity, clarity, creativity, calm, confidence, courage and connectedness. So the idea is that everybody has access to these qualities at their core. One of the aims of IFS is self-leadership. So rather than being controlled by your exiles, managers or firefighters, your self is in charge. The self can care for vulnerable parts and also lead discussion between parts. Under self-leadership, parts will generally cooperate with each other, but if there is a conflict, the self will be there to mediate between the different parts. Now, parts don't disappear under self-leadership, but their extreme roles do. So protectors may become inner advisors or inner problem solvers. And when the self shows acceptance and compassion to the exiled parts, they may transform into spontaneous and playful parts. So when parts trust it's safe to step out of their roles, they're highly valuable to the internal system. I'm now going to share an exercise so you can go inside and identify the different parts. Now, you may want to write down what you notice, so I would suggest you grab a pen and paper, and feel free to pause this video when needed. So start by settling into a comfortable position. Notice your back against the chair, your feet on the floor, and your contact with the ground. You may want to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. And focus your attention inside and notice any thoughts, feelings, or sensations that show up. Some may be pleasant and some may be unpleasant. That's okay. You may notice one thought, feeling, or sensation, or you may notice many. Be curious about what you notice. Is it communicating anything to you? What does it want you to know? Now send that part gratitude for showing up. Even if what you've noticed is negative, send it gratitude for communicating with you. And notice how that part responds to your gratitude. And when you feel ready, come back to the room. So what did you notice? Did you manage to make contact with the part? And what did it have to say? You may want to practice this exercise a few times to get to know the different parts that make up your personality. And let me know how you get on in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, you may be interested in the video on the screen now. And I look forward to seeing you soon.